It's chapter 10, and the students are leaving Hailsham and going to colleges. No, wait, sorry, they're going to cottages. Let's figure out what that means. Welcome to Chapter by Chapter. Maybe it's just because I'm a teacher, but I find it really interesting that Chapter 10 starts off with the students having something called senioritis. At least here in the United States, senioritis is where students in their last year of high school stop caring about their grades. Usually it starts somewhere between September and May, depending on what kind of student you have. And for the students of Hailsham, they have a very specific type of senioritis, and it has to do with the essays that they are writing. So apparently they're supposed to work on these essays once they leave Hailsham and go to their next destination, which for Kathy's group is the Cottages, and we'll get into more of that later. But no one's grading these essays, so it should be no surprise why they don't really care that much about them. However, Kathy says just a little bit into the chapter, this is 115 in my book, "It was like we were each clinging to our essay, this last task from Hailsham, like it was a farewell gift from the guardians." And this idea of a safety net, of a look back at a place of comfort, is an interesting one. And we have to ask ourselves, what are the essays in our life that we cling to when we leave a place that we're familiar with and that we feel safe and secure in? So anyway, Kathy reflects on her essay, which she wrote on Victorian novels, talks about how she wished she would have done a better job with it. But the question I want you to keep with yourself is, why do these essays, these like academic essays that anyone in a literature class might have to write, why are they so meaningful for the students, and why would the guardians have them do them? Anyway, we'll get to that in future chapters. So we should talk about the Cottages. They are an abandoned farm with some barns and a farmhouse, and they are so drafty and run down that the students had to sometimes wear 3 layers in order to keep warm. So maybe not quite as nice as some of the universities that the students reading this book are preparing to go to. Now, I called Kathy and her friends students, but that's not exactly accurate anymore. In fact, it's unclear to Kathy what exactly they are. They take care of the place, the Cottages, by doing chores, but they don't make money, and Kiefer's, who seems to be in charge, certainly isn't a guardian. But since he keeps a ledger of who's checked in and who's not, I'm guessing you can figure out part of his responsibilities. Still, the new environment is exciting. Unlike the fences and woods that kept students in Hailsham, the Cottages provide them opportunities to roam, though none of the first years take any extended trips for a while. In fact, the first years arrive at the Cottages pretty unsure of their next step. Eventually, the veterans, students who have already arrived there from other schools or maybe from Hailsham itself, take them in, and the students fall into a college routine, so to speak. Even without classes or instructors, they spend time arguing about poetry or philosophy and having discussions around the table about Kafka or Picasso. But of course, the close proximity and absence of any guardians opens the door for even more relationship drama, and Kathy soon turns to our favorite couple, Tommy and Ruth. A new environment brings with it new obstacles, and if this love triangle was hard for Kathy to stomach at Hailsham, it becomes unbearable at the Cottages. At first, Ruth attempts to drop as many PDA bombs as possible in each and every room she goes into, but she realizes that's not the way the veterans go about their relationships, so she starts using this minute gesture, a rap of the knuckles on the back of the arm. At first, Tommy isn't even sure what it means. In fact, Kathy knows this for a fact because she realizes that Ruth is doing this for show. She even compares Ruth to an actor in a play. But even more than that, she knows this particular gesture comes from a television show a veteran saw, and that Ruth is just copying one of the veterans who got it from TV. Now, this is embarrassing information. And it's the third time we've seen Kathy's astuteness put Ruth's bravado in a compromising position. Remember the chess matches and the pencil case from earlier in the novel. And like those previous incidents, Kathy's tempted to use her insight to put Ruth in her place, and she does. According to Kathy, she calls Ruth out not so much for the copied gesture as for the annoying way Ruth pretends to have read every book in the world. But I'm suspicious that incident with the reading was probably just a pretense for Kathy's dislike for Ruth being with Tommy. Whatever the case, Kathy brings it up, and if you'll indulge me, it's probably best I just read the end of the chapter for you here. This is on page 123 in my book. Ruth, I've been meaning to ask you, why do you always hit Tommy on the arm like that when you're saying goodbye? You know what I mean. Of course she claimed not to, so I patiently explained what I was talking about. Ruth heard me out, then shrugged. I didn't realize I was doing it. I must have just picked it up. A few months before, I might have let it go, at that, or probably wouldn't have brought it up in the first place. But that afternoon, I just pressed on, explaining to her how it was something from a television series. It's not something worth copying, I told her. It's not what people really do out there, in normal life, if that's what you were thinking. Ruth, I could see, was now angry, but unsure how to fight back. She looked away and did another shrug. So what? She said. It's no big deal. A lot of us do it. What you mean is Chrissy and Rodney do it. As soon as I said this, I realized I'd made a mistake. That until I'd mentioned these two, I had Ruth in a corner. But now, she was out. It was like when you make a move in chess, and just as you take your finger off the piece, you see the mistake you've made. And there's this panic, because you don't know yet the scale of the disaster you've left yourself open to. Sure enough, I saw a gleam come into Ruth's eyes, and when she spoke again, it was an entirely new voice. So that's it. That's what's upsetting poor little Kathy. Ruth isn't paying enough attention to her. Ruth's got big new friends, and baby sister isn't getting played with so often. Stop all that. Anyhow, that's not how it works in real families. You don't know anything about it. Oh, Kathy, the great expert on real families, I'm so sorry, but that's what this is, isn't it? You've still got this idea, us Hailsham lot, we have to stay together. A tight little bunch must never make any new friends. I never said that. I'm just talking about Chrissy and Rodney. It looks daft the way you copy everything they do. But I'm right, aren't I? Ruth went on. You're upset because I've managed to move on, make new friends. Some of the veterans hardly remember your name, and who can blame them? You never talk to anyone unless they're Hailsham. But you can't expect me to hold your hand the whole time. We've been here nearly 2 months now. I didn't take the bait, but said instead, never mind me, never mind Hailsham, but you keep leaving Tommy in the lurch. I've watched you. You've done it a few times just this week. You leave him stranded, looking like a spare part. That's not fair. You and Tommy are supposed to be a couple. That means you look out for him. Quite right, Kathy. We're a couple, like you say, and if you must intrude, I'll tell you. We've talked about this, and we've agreed. If sometimes he doesn't feel like doing things with Chrissy and Rodney, that's his choice. I'm not going to make him do anything he's not yet ready for. But we've agreed he shouldn't hold me back. Nice of you to be concerned, though. Then she added, in a quite different voice, come to think of it, I suppose you haven't been that slow making friends with at least some of the veterans. She watched me carefully, then did a laugh, as though to say, we're still friends, aren't we? But I didn't find anything to laugh about in this last remark of hers. I just picked up my book and walked off without another word. In the next chapter, we'll see just why Ruth's last words sting so bad. But I want to get back to something else Ruth said, that remark about Kathy being too stuck in the past. Earlier in the chapter, Kathy says this about her transition from Hailsham to the Cottages. Because somewhere underneath, a part of us stayed like that, fearful of the world around us, and no matter how much we despised ourselves for it, unable quite to let each other go. Now, knowing the title of this novel, you should know that that's an important line to hang on to. Getting back to it, though, there's a fine line between loyalty and blind obedience, between being grateful for the past and being trapped in it. Don't miss the symbolism of this new setting. Kathy, Tommy, Ruth, they're people destined to be slaughtered for others' gain, being kept in an abandoned farm. Life is getting harder for these three. but how they navigate it, that's up to them.